Okay, good afternoon, everybody. Welcome to the Technical Advisory Committee. I would like to start this meeting with a moment of silence out of respect for our friends in Beverly Hills who had an officer whose children were involved in very serious accidents. So our hearts go out to you, viewers, and if you need any support from any of us, please let us know. Now, silence, please. Thank you. So the first item on our agenda is review, discussion, and possible action regarding proposed amendments to Connections 2045, the Waco Metropolitan Transportation Area. Okay. Should have reminded me in the beginning. If we go around and do introductions, please, starting in North.
Chamber Winkle, Chad Sailor, City of McGregor, Brown Under City of McGregor.
This is not city, like,
We'll have something to fix up.
exactly, textile for sure.
Lane, textile planning.
My mom, city of Great guy, city of me. Gable textile, Waco districts. Okay, far away, there you go.
Amy for Wildland Highlands, City of Waco.
Zane Dunham, McLean County.
Laura Wagstaff, Waco Planning.
Serena Stevenson, Waco Transit.
City of Kaufman, City of Reese.
Suzette Meyer, representing Homeless Waco.
Aurora, Waco MPO. Daniela Gallegos, Waco MPO. Annette Polk, Waco MPO.
Okay, thank you. It's right up there, roll call. Okay, the first item on our agenda is review, discussion, and possible action regarding the proposed amendments to Connections 2045, the Waco Metropolitan Transportation.
So we are absolutely in love with that image, and so keep bringing this up. That is the MTP, the bus that carries everything in it, the tip and the UPWP and all of it. So whenever we try to make any amendment, it's really it affects everything else. And usually, whenever there is a change in the tip or any other document, it needs to match the MTP, and that's the purpose of this particular amendment. Next slide. So the most important point here is that there are two projects in the current TIP, 2025-2028 TIP, I-35-4C and the Twin Bridges project. Both of them require that the figures in the TIP, they have to match what is listed in the MTP. And so we are revising the 2045 MTP to reflect the most up-to-date numbers. Just as a reminder, our 2045 MTP is what we're operating under, and this is our long-range plan, which we are also working currently with the 2050 MTP, which will be done in January. But currently, until January of 2025, we are under the 2045 MTP. And so this amendment directly relates to revised estimate for I-35-4C, which increases by about 1.7 million, and decrease in the Twin Bridges estimate by roughly about $6 million. But a lot of this changes in the numbers, which we could have a lot of the changes are really have to do with how some of the cost classifications are done rather than actual changes in this. So engineering, if it's classified someplace else, it changes the numbers. So that's what happened with the Twin Bridges. Why it shows $6 million decrease.
Yeah, and similar like the 35-4C. It looks like it's going up in 1.7 million, but that's not construction costs. The construction costs are remaining. It goes back to what Jeff was saying, that it's basically the PE and engineering stuff. And one other note on the I-35-4C, we did just get the green light yesterday for November of this year until 11. So I-35-4C is going to happen this year.
Right. So those are the two changes we're making, and the I-35-4C will be seeing it before the end of the year. Fantastic. Next slide. So what we're doing is right now we will have a solicitation of comments in this from June 10th through June 19th. We will have a public information meeting this coming Monday on June 10th. And you are reviewing and making recommendation that is today. And we are actually going to ask you for two items. One, directive action to ask the MPO staff to proceed with the solicitation of comments, as well as approve the recommendation. We will have a public hearing and the policy board will act on June 20th meeting. And at that meeting, all the public comments received will be presented to them. So next slide. So first item is the directive action in which we are requesting you to direct the MPO staff to begin the solicitation of public comments.
Are there any questions or discussions on it? Do I hear a motion?
I'll make a motion.
I'll second.
Okay, any questions or discussions about the motion? All right, all in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed, say nay. That carries.
And next slide. So we are also asking you to make a decision on making the recommendation to the policy board to approve this resolution to amend our MTP to reflect the changes in these two projects.
Any questions or discussion about this recommendation? Do I hear a motion? Second?
I'll say.
Third? All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Okay, that carries as well. Next on our list is discussion and updates on the 2050 Metropolitan Transportation Plan call for proposals.
So as you know, we are under the solicitation period for the 2050 MTP. And after that bus image, this is ours, from the staff perspective, this is the second estimate we are working with. And so this is a roadmap we have been using, and we are currently in the project solicitation evaluation phase. We will be scheduling public meetings in the months of August through October, and the final MTP will be adopted by the policy board. We'll bring it to the TAC first, and then followed by policy board at the January meeting. And as the projects develop in the process, we'll keep you updated throughout, even prior to that. Next slide. And so this is the timeline that we have been following. June 21st is the deadline for call for proposals, and so we would like to see all the proposed projects included in our into the decision lens, so that we can organize it all together for the evaluation committee to start its work. Evaluation team is going to meet twice during the month of July 1st and 31st in the month of July. Next slide. So we have had these coordination meetings now amongst everybody from every city, TxDOT, and the MPO. We all have met a few times now, and we have discussed most of the projects that are either going to get carried forward from the 2025 MTP, as well as several new projects that we ought to be considering. And I want to do the drum roll for Mitch for putting in his proposal for the city of Woodway. Yay!
It's not as hard as you think. I'll tell everybody it's. Arthur helped out a lot when he was married, better.
So yes, so please go ahead and submit these projects, and as you know, we are going to prioritize submission of these projects until July 21st over anything else. And so we are more than happy to help whichever way submitting these projects. We also have some cities have a lot more projects and other cities have less. But just as a reminder, there are several projects which are on TxDOT and federal right of ways. And then there are several projects that are on local roadways as well. And those are going to get counted as reasonably significant projects. Yes. This is the proposal evaluation team. If you have any comment and if you want to expand this team further, we can do that. However, the only thing we wanted to be cognizant of the fact that the evaluation team is going to need to put in quite a few hours in this. We are estimating that this is going to be at least I'm drawing blank on how many hours did we say? We said that it's going to be at least 10 hours of work twice during the month. So this is almost 20 hours of work. So we wanted to make sure that this evaluation team was as compact as possible. And we only chose people who are already swamped so that they can make excuse from all the other. So we have Zane, Amy, Eric, Andrew, Brian, and Victor. Victor, I don't think Victor is aware that he's on this.
That's why we're not meeting.
And so thank you all very much. We'll have 2 meetings in month of July. So next. And so in the first meeting, we'll discuss the process and also discuss among ourselves if there is any confusion about how are we going to be evaluating and what the processes are going to look like. In the second meeting, we'll have the final ranking of the projects. Based on that, we'll present some of the draft projects to the policy board. And at the September meeting, in the month of September, we are planning to do community engagement through public comment meetings. One of the items we want your help with is we, in our staff discussion, we think that we need to schedule a minimum of 3 public meetings, and we can cover up to 5. However, one of the major criteria that we must pay attention to is that all the meeting locations have to be accessible by public transit. And so that does narrow potential locations significantly. In the past, we have had public meetings, majority of them inside city of Waco, where transit is available, as well as city of Belmead, where transit is available. However, if there are so within that criteria, we do need to identify, and if you have any thought for it, we need to do 3 or 5 meetings. We will come to consider. We know that we will do at least 3 and up to 5.
Determine the location for those meetings.
Right now, we have not. The most important criteria that we are cognizant of is that public transit, there must be public transit access to these locations. Any thought on, are there benefits of having more meetings, so 5 meetings versus 3 meetings? We'll obviously advertise quite a bit, and we now have our social media page that is active too, so we will be able to get a lot more word out. And so in that sense, more meetings will not necessarily be all that advantageous. That's why we're thinking that we can do either 3 or up to 5 meetings.
I think it maybe depends on the locations, right? If you can find that meet your criteria. It would be nice to have some in other communities if it's feasible.
So we were thinking that, Belmead becomes the default location simply because outside the city of Waco limit, Belmead City Hall is one of the locations that has access and conduct to that meeting, so that becomes
The community center too.
the community center as well, yes. And then our current policy board location, it has access, so that also becomes a default location that does have good access. So some of these are what we have in mind, but we can expand further if we recommend.
In the city of Belmead, well, welcome to have this house in that civic sentence. Whatever number adds up.
Cash, if it's here, well, as long as it's McLennan County, if we need to kind of do something to make sure people are aware that McLennan County Road Transit District can assist people who need transit to these additional locations, then we can make sure we do a push so that they understand how to call and schedule on these dates for this public engagement. So really kind of figure out a way to push that out.
If you have any additional thoughts, just email us. We are completely open to holding up to 5 public meetings across the county. And the 2 we mentioned, we obviously want to do those 2, but we'll have 1 or 3 more.
I'm not trying to speak for other cities, but I could see just trying to
have a city a little further away in parts of the county that you don't normally get. It would generate some excitement and interest, such as, say, Hewitt or McGregor, maybe even West. It's countywide, so.
We go in the Clinton County Road Transit. Coordinator.
Okay, we will try and push for as close to 5 as possible. Okay, thank you. That's all the update we have for the MTP proposal. Please don't wait till June 21st to submit these proposals, because if you're submitting it and Arthur is asleep in the middle of the night, I don't think we'd like to give you the cell phone number so that you could call him out. We need some help with decision analysis, because we are more than happy to help as much. But we want to make sure that that all the projects can. Any other question or if there is any project that any of you would like to mention here that that we need to have a discussion on, then that would be fantastic. Okay, that's all.
Does Mitch get a prize for getting some?
Mitch, if you keep talking, you're going to miss the prize. We are about to give you a prize.
Just ask me questions about it.
Okay, so next item on the agenda is review, discussion, and possible action regarding proposed amendment to the 2024 Waco MPO Comprehensive Safety Action Plan.
So as you recall, at the April 29th meeting, for the special call meeting of the policy board, we adopted the comprehensive safety action plan to meet the deadline of April 30th so that the cities could be eligible to apply for implementation grant. And we are happy to report that we have at least 2 cities that have applied for implementation grants, from City of Robinson and City of Bellmead. And in the next round, we will have several more implementation grants as well. However, in order to meet the deadline, we had to hurry up and try to finish up the comprehensive safety action plan as quickly as possible. Spend the timeline, so we had to rearrange quite a few things. So since we knew that a lot of smaller cities would not be in a position to apply for the implementation grant in a short time frame, we sort of held that back so that we could get the plan adopted by the policy board. But now, since then, we have made sure that all the smaller cities projects that were not included earlier are being fully fleshed out and they're ready to be included into it. We also had a sidewalk project that somehow got missed from City of McGregor at the last CSAP. We're adding that one back in, and some minor scrivener's errors, some typos and such. We have cleaned that up. And then also, in order to hurry up and hurrying in, we could not get the signatures on the letters of support and conditions into the document. So those are the major changes we're making. And so we would like to go ahead and amend the CSAP at the next policy board meeting with your recommendation to go ahead and yes, thanks. We will try to hurry up and get this meeting done very quickly. So here's the request from you. So since this is an official plan for the MPO. Anytime we make changes to these plans, it is important that we take a public comment period and solicit comments and then make a recommendation to the policy board and the policy board concept. Similar to the last item, we'll have two actions. One is the directive action, really asking directing the MPO staff to begin the public comment period, and then the follow-up to be the action item. Make recommendations to the correct MPO staff.
Any discussion or questions? All those in favor say aye. All opposed? Okay. second motion is to action items to recommend policy board. All those in favor? All right, opposed, say nay. And that carries. Next topic is discussion and updates on the NEVI phase 2 competitive grant program.
So we have been talking about these projects in a while. One of the things that we have been waiting that NEVI phase 1 has completed all the alternative fuel corridors across state of Texas have been completed. We have been waiting for the phase 2 implementation process to begin. And in this implementation process, Waco MPO area will have 1.84 to 1.85 million dollars and with additional $461,000 in operations and maintenance for 5 years. One of the nice things is that TxDOT has figured out a system whereby they can go ahead and do the project solicitation on behalf of the MPO for all the MPOs. What they will most likely do is combine some of the MPOs together. So in our case, it would be Waco MPO, possibly Bryan College Station and K-Temple, and all three MPOs do a single solicitation for charging station, depending on how many they have. But what we would like to provide to them, and that's what they're expecting the MPOs to do, is to provide them with what they call the study area. And their recommendation is that instead of, and which makes quite a bit of sense, instead of choosing a very particular location, they're expecting that why don't we give them a study area, so when they do the RFP, they will put that any proposal can be located in any portion of the study area. And then what we are also going to recommend in the power level, whether they're going to be DC fast charger or there are two types of activity that we're expecting, just to give you a sense of how much are they asking. So the DC fast charger, they typically cost about $150,000 and level 2 was $7,500. One of some of the criteria are that I-35, which is the corridor, any station within 1 mile of the corridor must have 4 fast charging ports at 150 kilowatt. But beyond that, we can consider both fast charging and the 2 chargers. One of the, based on our discussions with Michael Chamberlain, who heads the NEVI planning at TxDOT, it seems to make more sense to use the money to provide more DC fast chargers rather than level 2 chargers. But that's a discussion we would like to have here as well as during our connected automated vehicle. Yes. So this is what it is. That's I-35. And so based on our discussion, not only in the staff, but also with the connected automated vehicle work group, what we have noticed that US 84, State Highway 31, and Highway 6, these are the 3 corridors, mostly east-west corridors, that tend to be problematic because I-35 is quite filled with fast charging locations, but east-west corridor is quite problematic. So we have been trying to figure out if it would make sense to have, most likely, we only have fast charging locations. We can probably get 3 such locations across the country. And so these 3 locations, we can think of them as 84 as the study area, State Highway 31 and then Highway 6. And the idea was that if consider these areas, we can specify that within half a mile of these roadway we want these locations, and then TxDOT can do an RFP just for these areas, and then whichever ones make more sense based on the evaluation we can do right. And then we also have to choose whether we want to do direct fast charger or. So I'm going to stop here and see if you have any thought on this, and your thought will bring it to the connected automated vehicle work group again, have more discussion. By September, we'll make a recommendation which we can the advisory committee and Willow's policy board to get that going.
It's the difference in charging time.
So on the level 2, you can probably get somewhere close to 15 miles or so in one. Somewhere there, I don't remember exactly the numbers. And some of this also change, the level 2 chargers can operate at that level. And so, but typically level 2 chargers are more useful if you cater your remotely and significant amount of time. It's not really useful for very short. So if you're traveling long distance, level 2 DC fast chargers with that. And the other part of it is also that for local commute, most people who are using electric cars, they're charging them in their car. They're not necessarily depending on charging at a restaurant or sort of. The area where level 2s have been known to be are apartment complexes. And so in multi-dwelling units, typically level 2 chargers where people live and they use the level 2 chargers, then they charge their cars. And so that's where they are. So that's where we think that level 2 chargers will be most effective. Now, level 2 chargers can be, we can request them because of the CFI grants. So one of the changes that have been made in this round of CFI grant that I just learned was that if you submitted a CFI grant that you not funded last year, you can simply resubmit it. You just have to click one button. You do not have to here. And so, and on top of it, you can actually add another project if you wanted to. And so, to the best of my knowledge, the city of Waco is going to go ahead and they applied in the CFI that did not receive last year because most of the money and then going to hydrogen fuel cell in the last round. So hopefully, and the city of Waco will have together with the CFI. And so, and we might add some more. So those areas are good for level 2. For the traveling public, level 2 and so people who are traveling longer distances, they see concern. So the units are going to be the private providers, so who will own it and operate it, and they can set the pricing of how much private charging that will continue. TechStart also has started the process of contracting for making sure the installations are done properly, that there is review, and so there are inspectors who get actually inspected. We have received complaints in the past that sometimes the providers install it, but they think that they're getting energy at a particular rate, but do not. And so all of that has been brought back into a streamlined process by TechStart will directly supervise some of these locations. Private sector will be expected to also put in the local natural gas. And so $1.8 million is the, so that's the 80%. So we're going to get 20%. When we do the solicitation, it will be for private entities to make the.
Are the one that was proposed in March?
No, this is the first time that must have been the CFI charging.
What is the difference of infrastructure impact from quick charge to fast charge to? Is it everything on the ground, the impact is the same?
When you say impact, do you mean
Just the installation impact.
physical?
Yeah, the physical footprint.
Oh, the DC fast chargers are much. So you can think of DC fast charging locations with 4 ports, typically roughly about the same size as the gas station. They will end up looking at the same size. Level 2s are much smaller. So level 2, you can put level 2 charger in front of those maybe parking space that you might have. There's some cities that actually have started installing level 2 chargers on their sidewalks right next to Wall Street. They're very small. Actually, level 2 chargers, I would say, are smaller than this.
would be my recommendation that we go up to fast charger, simply because time is money. We're looking at installation points on travelers, long distance travelers. You're traveling long distance, time is even more, lessons there. And then ranking the prioritization of the free roads, highways that you have there. Since in my opinion, the US outranks the state highway, the US highway, federal highway ranks US. I would also think, and I need TxDOT to back me up to clarify, US 84 would have a higher count traffic than either state highway or state highway systems. So if I was going to prioritize, I would prioritize state highway, US 84. Six, probably. Well, 6 outnumbers 84 tremendously. I would go to 6.
Of course, let's look at the state. We're looking at 6 countywide.
Countywide,
Probably fall off.
yeah.
So I would even say maybe do it at US 77.
And Victor brings up a good point. Are we looking locally, like the Loop area, the city area, are we looking boundary to boundary, like North County line, South County line, East County, West County line? You're doing that, and you're talking long term. People are going from California to New York. I mean,
So these locations, so I guess they're gonna have to be. It's not gonna be secondary to business locations, sorry, to something. So. Except for saying, looking down the line. I'm sure there's some places out there. That's kind of, it's our. Went out there and break it down.
then you're gonna look at parking lot availability, capacity and availability. I would think your roadsters, your Buc-ee's, your pilot, truck stops, I mean, places like that, that you could set your car, go in, get something to eat. Maybe if it's a pilot, take a shower and do your laundry, then come back out, hit the road.
You got exactly right, and so those are exactly the criteria that TxDOT and its evaluation. So when private entities made a proposal, I think they evaluate against other facilities. One thing, we're saying, we're at least within the on the whole stretch of road for, I think we have more opportunities. I would say there. I think it should be. We were thinking that we won't necessarily prioritize these study areas, we will simply recommend these study areas on that. And so what they would do is that in the RFP, they would specify that we need also, so just for an example, we say in US 84 study area, it would essentially mean end-to-end within county boundaries within half a mile or quarter mile distance from them.
Well, and here's 2 other thoughts. One, we're leaving out Interstate 35. I presume that that's for a specific reason we're leaving out I-35.
Well, because
Then second is that Victor talked about the loop. That is such highly traffic, and you're getting people coming north, south, east, west. They're on the loop to change direction. So I think having one on or near the loop would be important. And then if we're only getting 3, and I can see one on the west, one on the east, one near the loop. So I'm just trying to maximize the impact.
any other. We're almost at it. Into that's one of the items that came in the discussion, that we don't necessarily want to specify an exact location, and but you want to give them a really long line. And then on that line, let's see all the applications we get. Because it would be really difficult for us to pinpoint exactly and then expect RFPs to just for that. And that's the idea we had putting this entire study area, that's what we call them. And within that, when we do the solicitation, anybody who has a project in mind, because apparently what's happening is several of the private providers have already been signing agreements with different businesses like pilots and such. And that whenever these opportunities come up, they can go ahead and put together joint applications. And so, so these private agencies have already mapped out the entire, so from a county, I would think that most of them already know that if there is a proposal, we're going to go ahead and submit this. And that's one reason why we don't want to be so prescriptive to give a point.
Well, because, there's other projects that are in the works, kind of like the McGregor bypass, that may shift traffic. There may need to be one over there, further east of 84. There was at some one time top of the loop out there, so we're off ramp or on ramp or something. So
What's the status? How many miles?
Oh, so I-35, the expectation was 50 miles, and so I-35 is saturated throughout Texas. On this one, there is no limit. All they are saying is that if you're going to do within 1 mile of I-35, then you must do extra license. You can't put level 2 charges basically within 1 mile of I-35. It all has to be decent. But in terms of distance, location, how far away from each other, there's no specification.
That's 1.85. We're talking 12 units. It's a lot of units that are done about 3 highways plus 10. That's it.
Okay, that's. So yeah, so 1.8 million is not much money for us here. It's small, but it's just that based on our discussions we have had in the camp, that's one of the things we keep hearing complaints about east-west travel, that there is simply no charging to it. It's there, like. Great, thank you.
Moving on to our next agenda item, it's discussion and updates on current safe streets for all grades and smart grants.
Yes. So we are very close to finalizing the contract with Federal Highway Administration for the 2023 demonstration project grant, and just to remind you that these projects are on Valley West Drive, US 77, Human Drive near the Midway Middle School, in Belmead, that portion between I-35 and 84. And we are expecting that by August, we'll have this grant executed. And once we execute it, we'll very quickly put an RFP for a design proposal. And then there will be second round of proposal, which will hire a project manager to actually implement the project. And throughout the process of this demonstration project, we're going to depend on TxDOT's maintenance. Because most of the project sites are actually on TxDOT's right, as well as Baker's Public Works, that we make progress on this. We have submitted the 2024 supplemental planning grant with the sign inventory, and once we hear back, which should happen sometime in September or so, we will reach back out to every city which wants to be in the sign inventory project, so we can with that. We are similarly trying to finalize the grant agreement for the base grant so that we can get started again middle of August. And we are currently also working on a smart grant, in which when is the due?
Smart grant is to July.
Early July. And so the idea behind there is again similar type of demonstration project. We want to prioritize bike pedestrian facility and Fifth Street corridor and see if that actually had an impact on increased pedestrian and bike traffic. On that, it already has quite a bit of like and pedestrian facility, they have quite a bit of improvement because of I-25 underneath. And so by changing some of the, using sensor-based prioritization of some of the like activities, we want to find out if that actually makes a difference. One of the items that we wanted to make sure that we're aware of that in the comprehensive safety action plan, as well as any other planning document we have, if a project that is important to you, which is local, even if it does not expect any federal funding immediately from category 2, it's really important to have that project into one of our plans, because you can use that as a proxy for having public support. Because most projects actually get evaluated based on the level of public input they have had, and also whether the project is broadly supported by the community or not. Having the project listed in our in any of our plans demonstrates that public support and guide, and sort of ensures that all these points are on running evaluation. Not only that, each of our projects that are listed in any of our plans can apply with several different projects. Okay? And so comprehensive safety action plan, for instance, is not just this SS4A grant, but we are also encouraging everyone to apply for 2A grants using the alternative S6 grants, as well as ATIIP grant that is right now. Those are all implementation grants that we can apply. And one of the things we are trying to do is that we want to make sure that as these grant programs become available, that we want to make sure that they get on your radar. One of the things that is very exciting in the MPO world is that under the infrastructure funding, we have never known funding. Most of the times we complain about not having any funding at all. And so we want to maximize these 5 years of funding. We have no idea what's going to happen after that. And so in these 5 years, we're going to do everything we can to help all the member cities to maximize the number. Yes. And so now, before we hand over to Clayton, which you mentioned that we all get so excited with those drone images that the moment Clayton had some new images, we were like, "No, let's update these presentations because that's what we're here for." Stuff.
Yeah, we got some new photos actually earlier this week. So added a few projects as well. Spring Valley, if you move to the photo. This is, I'm gonna call it the southern end towards Hewitt Drive. You can see where it's taking place on the west half of the roadway there. Contractors working on laterals. I expect paving to start up this summer. Front of the school, same area, working west half of the roadway. Working laterals actually as of this morning, right in that same area. So again, I expect later this summer the paving operations to get here. This is moving again north towards Old Temple. Just a shot of the lighting, the west half of the roadway, the east half is complete. Old Temple intersection, so kind of the tie-in point, kind of the intersection there, work ongoing. So primarily on the south side, working on drainage, north side, we got curb and gutter down, working on getting flex space, prep for paving, so again, a lot of work to happen in the next few weeks. Again, here's just a shot of flex space in place, curb and gutter, drainage here, you should see paving soon. And this is at the far north end, so this is at the direct connect on the I-35 pavement time. We're on track for completion later this calendar year. University Park, primarily working on our widening from the south half of the roadway. We did get the first half of the bridge from North Creek with 2 lanes and one temporary signal there. With the structure starting up now. The intersection was solved with replacing the signals and upgrading the summer. This is closer to the LaSalle end of the job, so you can see some of the widening. Thanks for here's the bridge over here. You can see both lanes of traffic. Old structure is gone. Finishing up that structure this summer. This is the job. You can see some of the widening work there. Paving up in the summer. All the mall. So here's back at the intersection, primarily working on finishing the signals here and completion of the well. Beverly, here you can see all structures in place, riprap in place, just some cleanup in this area. This is around Imperial, so similar story here, just general cleanup. Weather obviously has not helped us out in the last couple of months. It's dry weather, it's just alternate riprap, getting sawed down. Here's the depot bridges. So again, you can get some riprap completed in this area. That's where they're allowed to get in some quiet. Day 4, again, it's really just getting front slope shaped up once the weather dries out. Sod planted. This end of the job. I mentioned these two projects previously, just a couple of paving jobs on going to the county. State Highway 6 million, Bristol area. Contractors that we're building out the pavement, it's on the level up, that we're continuing this calendar year. Our Bellmead Drive at 340 over. This is Bellmead Drive from the interstate of the 84 77 back around the Williams Drive. Contractor right now is working on the metal garbage upgrades, some safety elements there. Starting some night paving with the repairs that need to take place.
Thanks.
So, the only important update we have is my aggressive meeting on May 15th. Suzanne, I never would ask you. But would you like to give an update?
I was.
Okay. Yeah, so the most exciting part of the May 15th meeting was actually we got completely overwhelmed by school children. And so we had our location at the so we had bikes and walks to part of the park. And halfway through the meeting, we had, I think it was Bosqueville ISD students meetings and pushed us all out in time. And so we had to go and find another location. We thought it was sort of made perfect sense for the bike pedestrian working meeting to be pushed out by little children. And but the most important part there really was that we have been discussing about what do we need to do with our active transportation plan and the different programs and plans that are happening. That we have been actively thinking about how do we do our active transportation plan was adopted roughly about 5 years ago. And so this is the time that we need to start evaluating the projects as well. And so that's what we would be doing for the most part in the bike and pedestrian work group. One of the important things that we have been discussing quite a bit is that in McLennan County, about 23% of our trips are shorter than 1 mile, that we need to really seriously prioritize. Those are the trips which are most likely convertible to bike and pedestrian activity. And so as we are thinking about some of these projects, especially at projects such as Freeway Drive, for instance, or any of the valley mills, where we already have quite a bit of business and residential locations close by. Those are the areas where we tend to generate a lot of these shorter than 1 mile vehicle trips. And so if we can engineer a modal switch for even a quarter of those modal trips, that will go a long way into increasing the level of bike and pedestrian use. So those were some of the most important points discussed during the meeting. Our next meeting is on August 24th. The next upcoming work group meeting is going to be connected automated vehicle on July 17th. And if you all would like to come and discuss the levy planning process with some more, please do, because that's going to be one to go ahead and finalize that.
Next on the list, we have the MPO monthly report.
Yes, so planning agreement among TxDOT, Waco MPO, and the city of Waco, which identified everyone's responsibility, has been extended by a year. And the reason for that is TxDOT has been rethinking how they do the allocation of yield funds across MPOs. And so they wanted another additional year to be able to do that. And that's why most MPOs have their funding agreements expire on September 30th this year. This year, and so TxDOT is going to be doing this over the next year. And so the current agreement has been extended through September 30th of 2025. And this is going to also allow us time for the redesignation and so I completely missed the one of the things that we really want to do is, I know for each of the communities, each of the cities, we would love to hear an update on any project that we have already discussed that needs to be included in the MTP, or any project that we did not discuss and that you have been thinking of adding to it. And so I'm just going to go ahead and pick up on it and have him talk about the project that we had already submitted.
Sure. It's submitted for. Thank you. It's actually down the road, anchor point, they're all world class. More traffic, which you don't particularly follow for. It's they'll get high priority, but the same kind of delivery. That's our problem.
Are there other projects that you're working on that will get into?
I think after our meeting, I think we're going to sponsor the name for primary sponsor of the property.
Mitch, do you talk about the first project? Was that from Old McGregor Road going, I guess, south?
So, yeah, I guess it's from Hewitt Drive. Going. All the way to Reach Road, all they're Bowling Road, to the ceiling line, which is one of the railroad tracks. Kind of.
That's not going to Panther Way.
Now that part's already, Waco rebuilt that.
Yeah, not Panther Way, but I guess it's Ritchie Road from Old McGregor to Panther Way.
No, it would be from. Yeah, Road going west.
Yeah. To Ritchie. Okay. Okay.
Brian, projects that we configured.
The conversation yesterday about the route. That
If we can help with any project that you want to submit, we could please let us know. So that we will make sure that we speak at the project is. And we know that for the city of Belmead, we have at least 2 projects that we have discussed in the book that we tried. The discussion I think just before we start. And so hopefully you all have been working on trying to get that. This is- Yeah. What next?
Andy, is Katy Lane, is part of that in Lacey Lakeview or is it in Bellevue? Bellevue. Okay. I know there was a water line upgrade on Katy Lane. I think you're going to be, is that, do you see that road needs to be updated or upgraded?
From my understanding with the north interceptor lines that. Definitely be on in our scope, if that wasn't the case, but I think we're looking to see what. Then he comes back and it's. Here's what we can see it.
One of the important projects that we have been discussing is Human Drive is very likely to be on the 100 most congested segment between Sun Valley and US 84. And so what we have been considering is doing both. City of Waco to project propose a project between Sun Valley and US 84, and City of Houston to propose a study for Human Drive all the way from like 35 to 84, so that we can figure out exactly what type.
There's also.
So, I think Victor is probably better, to answer that question, but in most cases, if there are, if there are upgrades to, the utilities, they are responsibility of the city. And that's the.
Yeah, utilities has to be, so utilities, as far as upgrading drainage. It really depends on the funding requirements. 2 points. One has to be on system, and number two, probably be overall. It depends which one.
Yeah, we're just looking at some low lying areas. Seriously going on the one.
To Bellmead and Lacey Lakeview, we need to put in the project 3 of 27.
That's the only section. Businesses. One of the other items that in this MTP list separately are several feasibility studies. One of the important ones are going to be for the northern and southern portion of the county of the connectivity occurs across the bridge, because once you are more further south, there's no bridge that connects the side of the county. And so in this MTP, we are that would be one of the feasibility study to figure out how to improve the connectivity. And also any kind of phasing that might be. Great, thank you. Awesome. Next. So this year is also very exciting for us because we will be 50 years old. And so we have been doing this for 50 years. And what we have done is we have requested every MPO of local government to put a proclamation during their August meeting. And the MPO staff would like to be there at as many of these meetings as possible. And we are going to have a luncheon on September 19th at 11:30. And all of you are invited already. We'll be sending you a formal invitation as well to this. And this will be at South Waco Community Center, 2815 Spade Avenue. And the policy board meeting will follow at 1:30 p.m. You're welcome to stay for the policy board meeting afterward or today. And that's all we have. Can you go to the next?
Next meeting will be Thursday. No, that is today. What's it? Huh? Hey.
We've already completed our next meeting. That's awesome.
All right, you guys are off. Okay, like that, August 21st. CAB meeting Wednesday, July 17th. We have the one. Okay, we'll see you in September.
Yes.
Any agenda item for future meeting? Okay.
Second.
Thank you.
All right, thanks, everybody.
Yeah. So you're trying next week.
So somebody's people left, it's gonna be Italian,